And welcome to Flyers Game Day. Is it game day? It is game day.
It's game night.
It's going to be game 2 days because we're going to cover it in 2 different calendar days. It's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, Flyers in Vegas to wrap up this little mini 2-game set. Dallas, they had that overtime loss on Saturday. It's Vegas tonight. I'm at the home studio, Brian. I can assure you that usually at this time of night, it is not this well lit.
No?
That town where you are is always lit, and it's lit right now.
It's been lit since we got here. Yes, that's part of the reason you're glad your hotel room has curtains, because my goodness, it is. We're in Manhattan more than we are Vegas, obviously, and it's like that's what it reminds me of. It's what you see in Manhattan on most nights. So it's a mini Manhattan here, but it's been It's been a good couple of days. Everybody's got a day off on Sunday, and then got back out yesterday. Had a good skate, and now they're going to get a crack at the hottest team in hockey right now. So we talked about last game maybe being the measuring stick. This one is yet another one.
Brian, do you see a lot? You're out there in Vegas on the Strip, walking around. Hitting the blackjack tables, whatever you're doing out there. It'll stay out there, by the way. But
yes,
do you see Vegas Golden Knight shirts, hats, jersey?
Yeah, actually,
jerseys,
you do. Yeah, you do. You see a lot of the branding around here. And the one thing I saw a lot of, a surprising amount of for me, was Vegas Golden Knight plates. They have a similar program here to what we've got back in the tri-state area. In Delaware, Jersey, and PA all have the Flyers license plates available to benefit Flyers charities. They've got that here, and they're all over the place. So, I've seen a lot more Golden Knight stuff than I have, Las Vegas Raiders stuff. We'll put it that way. So it's definitely, they've definitely started to make an impact here on the community, and especially when you get off the Strip. I mean, the Strip is almost 100% tourists, but everywhere outside, they're really starting to make a mark.
Yeah, it's funny what winning will do.
Yeah,
I mean, they come into the league.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, they come into the league and they have those advantageous, maybe is the right word, expansion draft rules, and then they go to a cup final in their first year. Then they suffered a couple of years. All those Vegas fans must have been hell suffering through it.
Oh, I know. I don't know how they could have done it. Yeah,
all those years. Yeah. But they win the cup last year, and you always wonder, the team that wins the cup, first cup obviously in franchise history. It's Vegas, so it's always a party, and maybe they're immune to the hangover out there since the movies were shot there. But they're suffering no hangover to start this year, 6-0 to start the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't really know exactly what the matchups have been, but generally what you see is just that, because a team that goes to the Stanley Cup final or wins the cup, obviously, plays well into June, and so by the time they're all said and done, come back and have a very, very short off season, and that is what has happened to the Golden Knights, obviously, this summer. But off to a strong start is one thing. We'll have to see if they can continue it, but they're certainly constructed well to do so. It seems a lot of times in this day and age, when you've got a team that's built to win a cup, it's sometimes hard to keep them together. They've been able to do that here. There have been no salary cap casualties, if you will, anything like that. The vast majority of the roster that won the cup last year is still here, and so that's why this might be a pretty tough team for the Flyers to deal with, but they've been a tough team to deal with as well. So they're just going to try to put another good one here in the books before heading back to Philadelphia.
The 6 games Vegas has played, I would probably deem about 2.5 of them quality opponents. Here's what they've done and who they've played. They opened up against the other expansion team, Seattle, and they got a 4-1. That's the half of a good team. I'm not sure about them yet. San Jose, they beat 4-1 as well on the road. San Jose, not a good team. No. Certainly not a good team. Then they come back home. They beat Anaheim 4-1. Anaheim, not a good team. Then they beat Dallas at home in the shootout. Dallas is a good team. They played them in the conference final last year, as a matter of fact. Then they went to Winnipeg, and I think Winnipeg's a good team, decent team. 5-3, they won that game. And then their last game, they played against Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks, and they won that game 5-3. And then here we are tonight with the Flyers taking on Vegas. So, 6-0, it's a good record, and they've beaten who's in front of them. But there are some obviously inferior teams on the other side of that 6 game. And it's hard to judge everything, when you look at where they rank in the league and all those things. 5-game sample size in hockey is so minuscule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they play, a lot of times when the teams are sitting here going through a season, they kind of divide it up into 10-game segments. A segment when you're, trying to plan out the year. So, it's certainly, a small, again, the fact that they've been able to get off to that good start is beneficial for their psyche. And, they've started to feel, I think, a little more at home here in T-Mobile Arena. I'm looking around here, and it's sort of a full house. Do you recall the first couple of years the Flyers came out here? Everybody was losing here, and it was because of the whole Vegas thing. But the Flyers never had a problem here, and we'd sit back in Philadelphia and listen when a goal was scored. It sounded like the Wells Fargo Center. So I'm interested to see how many people do end up turning out here. It's still 5 minutes to game time, and I think this is a bit of a late start even for Vegas. From Vegas standards, it's at 8:17 local time here on a Tuesday night. So we'll see what the setting is like, but it's definitely a team that has a lot of confidence, as well it should, after what they did last year, and are playing like it right now.
Yeah, based on the nightlife out there, 8:17 nighttime is brunch. People rolling out of bed.
Well, that's the thing. That's the difference. That's why everybody kind of wondered if it would work out here, because that's the way it is on the Strip. But again, those are not the locals. Those are the folks that flew in here for a week or a few days or whatever, and are going to fly back out. For the locals, I got to imagine coming down to the Strip is really annoying. It's just there's traffic everywhere, and they've got a really good pedestrian system going now. You don't have a lot of people crossing the street most places or anything, but just the fact that you've got to try to wait down here. Now you can get to, I think you can get to the garages for this building without actually going on the Strip, so that's helpful. But that was the big question, was would the locals embrace this? And I think they have. The Flyers were out at the Golden Knights practice rink, which was out in Summerlin, roughly the distance as Voorhees is from downtown Philadelphia, I think. And you there that it's a pretty vibrant community that supports this team.
The thing is that home ice advantage, I think teams have figured out. Come in late the day before and get out as quick as you can. That's the big. But building a team out there, I imagine you have to make sure you got the right kind of guys that aren't going to get mixed up in the Vegas nightlife.
Yeah, you do, and I think I think.
Yeah, just like anything else.
The place to live if you're working for this team is out by the practice rink, out in the surrounding areas. You're not necessarily going to be down on the Strip all the time. So, but it's we're going to put that to the tests here tonight, because the Flyers did the exact opposite of that little strategy. They were here Saturday after the Dallas game, had all of Sunday off here in Vegas, as well as last night. So we'll see how that approach works out.
Yeah, it is the Flyers and the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. We'll go through some of the particulars and look at the way Vegas is built when we come back. So stay tuned. It's Brian Smith out in Vegas, Jason Martinez in the home studio. Flyers Golden Knights at the top, I would say the top of the hour, about quarter after the hour, as a very busy day in the NHL. All 32 teams will play on this day. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. There we go. Now we're unfrozen. I don't know why this thing keeps doing that.
I'm going to have a hard time hearing you. Try again.
Is Smitty talking to me? What's that?
Oh, you were talking to me. It's really loud in here.
We were frozen for a bit there. On my end.
I'm all good.
All right. I'm going to take these off. Conte Partiro. All right. Yeah. Never know. Back live as the Philadelphia Flyers are getting set to face off against the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Jason Martinez and Brian Smith along for the pregame show. Brian, let's look at this Vegas roster a little bit because I talked about this on Flyers Daily today. You know, I'm seeing a lot of this buzz about, all the Flyers are winning, but that's not what we want them to do. They need to get one more high pick to satisfy the rebuild, right? But I looked at a bunch of teams in the NHL, and teams that outwardly tried to lose and get high picks. Yeah, they got some of them did get some high picks. Some of the picks panned out, some didn't. But when I look at teams like the Devils, got 2 high picks. They get Hughes and Heischer. That pans out for them. I don't think they actively tried to lose, but I look at Detroit. They were pretty bad a couple of years. They ended up with Sider, Raymond, Brinkett goes home. They got some good pieces there. Obviously, Dylan Larkin as well was the 15th overall pick. But they get like a guy like Sider, the 6th overall, Larkin 15th overall, Raymond 4th overall. You look at the Bruins, They get Marchand in the 3rd round, David Pastrnak 25th overall, McAvoy 14th overall. They never bottomed out.
Yep.
Look at Carolina. Carolina's off to a tough start. They're losing 3-0 tonight. But they get Aho in the 2nd round, 35th overall in 2015. They trade for Kotkaniemi, who's a number 2 overall pick, but he hasn't lived up to the billing. Martin Necas, 12th overall. Svechnikov is a 2nd overall, and he hasn't scored more than 69 points in a season. Slavin is a 4th round pick. So you can build a team. Then you look at Vegas. Last year, they didn't have a point-per-game player. Jack Eichel had 66 points in 67 games. Granted, he's a number 1 overall pick and a big-time talent and was probably coming back from it. But Chandler Stevenson, 65 points in 81 games. Marchessault, Riley Smith, Petrangelo on the back end, Shea Theodore. They got a lot of pieces and just a lot of depth. And I think that's what wins them the cup. It's not an elite player. And certainly not multiple.
Yeah, this is a bit of a trend in the NHL right now. It's and I was thinking about it today. I was talking with somebody yesterday about just the way teams approach things these days, and this is not the NHL of the '80s where anybody that's any good gets in the playoffs. There was a lot more distance between the have and have-nots back then. The NHL has created a staggering amount of parity now between the salary cap and the shootout point that, just getting into the playoffs should be considered a good year. I mean, you look at the Boston Bruins a few years back, 96 points, missed the playoffs. It is world now. So, I would much rather see the Flyers developing who they have in a winning environment and getting them some playoff experience, maybe even if they can, than I would them trying to, intentionally, have a poor record in order to get a good draft pick. Everybody talks about, Bedard this, Bedard that. You look at the other teams that did the same thing and didn't get Connor Bedard. Now, granted, this was a very deep draft year, and then the of the world could have been number one picks in other years. So they'll all make it, but that draft year is not the way it normally is every year. So I think just trying to avoid a winning environment for your young players that you already have in the hopes of getting a number one pick is just kind of counterproductive. It's like buying it's literally lottery tickets. I mean, it's the lottery. But I think the Flyers have enough coming that they can just go ahead and approach this, semi-normally, and let things land where they may. You got to remember they have a potential first-round pick coming this year from Florida. If it doesn't come this year, next year. So they've got future assets already coming. They've got future prospects coming. And you look at the guys that are out there right now playing in other leagues that are coming down the pike here for this team. There's a lot coming.
Gauthier.
So Cutter Gauthier, Matt Michkov, some of the guys, Denver Barkey's had a great start to his year.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's finding guys. It's more to me. It's less to me about getting big number one picks than it is finding guys down there in the fifth round. Noah Cates, if Denver Barkey pans out, a guy like him. And if they want to trade for some more first-round picks, they're going to be strong enough at certain positions that they could maybe trade for some first rounds if they wanted to add high-end talent that way. I really think that the start here, we'll have to see how sustainable it is. Obviously, you're not going to score 3 shorthanded goals a game, but I think this team is certainly on the right track without intentionally trying to have a bad season.
Yeah, and I think the thing that some of the people that kind of preach that I don't want them to win thing, you got to realize that if you don't want them to win, then you don't want Travis Konechny to have a good year. You don't want Joel Farabee to have a rebound year. You don't want Travis Sanheim to have a good year. You don't want Owen Tippett to further develop. You don't want Cam York to further develop. You don't want you want Carter Hart to fall on his face. And then all of a sudden you don't have any kind of team building philosophy, and you've got the stink of accepting losing, which doesn't wash off the hands quite that easily.
And again, to an extent, it's you're shooting yourself in the foot because, like I'm speculating that if the Flyers wanted to add more draft capital, that they can do so through the trade route. Well, if you finish last and all your guys have terrible stats, you're not going to be able to trade them for anything.
Yeah, nobody wants
even
them.
Though they may be decent players. So they'll figure it out. I have no doubt that Danny Briere and Keith Jones and then the overall staff that's around them will figure out ways to keep this going. The objective for me is to go on another 15-year playoff run, and if you miss one year, make sure you're back in the next year.
A couple tweaks and you're back in.
As we've seen the last couple of years, obviously Florida was a little bit injury prone, but if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And, if you get in the playoffs with 130 points, you're just as likely to be out in the first round as if you get in with 95. So just get in the playoffs, let it ride, see what happens, and go from there.
And you're just as likely, whether you picked at the top of the draft multiple times like Toronto and getting Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and others to get knocked out early as you are if you are Boston, who didn't pick at the top of the draft and got Pasternak 25th overall. So that's the point. Yeah. And
I mean,
we have these conversations anymore.
Right. Yeah. We talk about Edmonton all the time. I mean, everything
4 and 7 years.
Connor McDavid has gotten them. He's the generational player that I guess everybody looks at wanting to get, and they have not been able to build a winner around him as of yet. So
they had 4 number 1 overall picks in 6 years.
Oh yeah.
Nail Yakupov.
Has anyone got right other than Pittsburgh? They benefited from something like that, So I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Malkin High, and then obviously they got Sid because of a coin flip.
Yeah, it was Fleury right before the lockout, and then Sid the year after, and then Malkin the year after that, right? Or was Malkin before the lockout?
I think Malkin
I
was
don't
before.
remember. Yeah, it all runs together. But yeah, they got the 3 really high picks thing. Like, look how fast the Devils got good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't the Flyers do that? I think they're completely capable of doing that.
Well,
The
look at the
Devils just
Rangers.
all of a sudden one day.
Yeah,
Well,
like the Rangers, they sent out that letter, right? And everybody goes, "Oh, they went through a rebuild." They didn't trade Chris Kreider. They didn't trade Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah. Now, and again, that's good draft luck, and the fact that they have two guys that wanted to play nowhere else but New York.
Fox and Panarin.
Fox and Panarin. So they benefited greatly from those two things. But again, it's a roll of the dice. If they don't hit on those two draft picks, if they don't get those lottery wins they got, the Devils don't get the lottery wins they got, then they're still clawing upwards. So again, you're putting your faith in the lottery that way. Yeah.
Here's the thing about the Rangers lottery picks. They've been hugely disappointing. Kakko and Lafreniere.
Right.
That's a first and a second. That's just the way.
And again, I would argue that Hischier has not been what they think he'd be, but maybe he's going to get there.
Yeah, I think Hughes is going to get there. He looks really good.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, they're the only team in the Metro that's winning on this day where every NHL team is playing at this point.
You know what's really weird about this day is that we're getting back from lunch today, right? We're getting back from lunch, and 15 minutes later, the warm-up started for the Washington. That's how weird today is. Yeah. Like right after lunch. We weren't at lunch, but not too long after lunch because they had a 6 o'clock start to kick this whole thing off. So you mentioned all 32 teams are playing today. Well, these are the last two right here.
Yeah, well, they ran out of time.
Yeah.
Can't call it today. A nice panini for lunch in Vegas, right, Smitty?
Yes, exactly.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to take our last break here of Flyers game day. We're going to turn it over to Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk for all the Flyers Vegas Golden Knight first period action and the countdown to face-off. But when we come back, we're going to go full-blown Michael Buffer. We're going to have the tail of the tape. Am I allowed to say, let's get ready to rumble, or am I going to get a cease and desist?
No, you're good. They're not paying attention.
Good. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, Flyers game day. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers broadcast network.
So I just cycled, Mike, because I think we had a delay. See if that solves it. I'm on my air card because I couldn't get out on their internet here. That might be part of it.
I don't drink coffee, so I have.
Yeah, I didn't actually see your text, so I didn't do anything. So
I've got
maybe it's better now.
So give me a little caffeine stream, people. And I'm drinking it right out of the big bottle. I don't give a crap. Yeah, it's a 64 fluid ounce, 2-quart, 0 sugar Snapple, half and half. Half iced tea, half lemonade. It's so good. Oh, my God. Yeah, we've... All right. If everybody wonders what I'm looking at when I look like this, I'm looking at the Phillies game on my TV. They're in commercial right now. All right. All right, it is Flyers, Vegas Golden Knights, Flyers game day. Jason Martinez, Brian Smith getting you ready for the game. Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk will be along momentarily with the countdown to face-off and all the first period action. Smitty, what are you doing to stay awake? You got the are you a coffee man, or are you a hot tea?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay. Oh, an aristocrat.
That's my go-to. No, it's actually not too terrible. Just from the standpoint of, the team got here Saturday night, and the Dallas is in the Central Time Zone, so it wasn't like a hop from Eastern straight to Pacific for this one. We've been here for close to 72 hours now, and so there's been there's been time to adjust, and with the late start, I think more guys got the game nap in and stuff today. It's probably I think this late start probably benefits the Flyers more than it does the Golden Knights, because obviously they're used to everything out here and probably raring to go, whereas the Flyers were able to get a little bit extra time to adjust to anything that might be left being out here. For me, the tough one for Philadelphia is the Thursday game against Minnesota, because they're flying all the way across the country tomorrow, and they'll be coming west to east, which is, I think, is that the easier one to adjust time wise? I don't remember what it is. I can't keep it straight.
I think going out's easier. Coming back,
yeah. I mean, they're gonna. I think you're right. I think it's tough coming back. Thursday is for me a worrisome game as far as trying to recover, but everybody's got to deal with it every now and then. But I think they're in a good spot tonight. This group is feeling pretty good about themselves right now, and they're playing a brand of hockey that is kind of tough to deal with at the moment. They are absolutely relentless on the penalty kill right now, and they've got some guys here that really are exceeding expectations, led by Bobby Brink. So I think it's going to come down to whether or not they can handle the Vegas offense, especially with their pretty young blue line right now. With Mark Stahl not on the trip, he's out week to week with an upper body injury. So Yegor Zamula and Emil Andre both going to be out there, and I'm sure the Golden Knights are going to try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, Zamula will be playing with Sean Walker tonight. We'll get to the lineup in just a second. Let's go to the tail of the tape now. Vegas on the season, Bri, they're fifth in the NHL in goals for. They average 4 even per game. Flyers 16th at 3.2 per game. Vegas has played 6 games. Flyers have played 5. Goals allowed, 1.83 for Vegas, the 4th least in the league. Flyers 10th least in the league at 2.6. Power play, big difference here. Vegas, 9th in the NHL, 27.3%. That's really high to be 9th, but it is early in the season. Flyers, 30th in the league right now, 5.6%. They got 1 power play goal, Bri. It came on a 5-on-3. They've had good looks on power plays, but they haven't finished. They got to start finishing on the power play to really make teams pay for when they go to the box.
Exactly, yeah. It's got to be – it's something that's going to come along with some time here, I think. But, that is – when you look at the brand of hockey the Flyers are playing now, you wouldn't be surprised to learn that their penalty kill is what's probably the weakest link at the moment. But their power play is what the weakest at the moment. They're actually having a much better time on the penalty kill than they are on the power play. As you mentioned, 3 shorthanded goals and just 1 power play goal. So, I think that'll come with total. Time. 4 shortage total. I am. I'm looking at my rundown here, and there's 1 miss. The total's right, but the rundown is wrong. So just for the sake of normal hockey, I guess, is what you want. You would hope the power play would come along. They've had their looks. They've had some good opportunities. Haven't quite been able to finish it, but especially with I would love to see Bobby Brink settle in to a regular power play role with the way that he has been setting up his teammates as of late, and maybe that gets him going. But they're still looking for a spark there.
Yeah, Morgan Frost not in the lineup again tonight, and he's a player based on the way he played in the final 2/3 of last year, you thought would be a player on the power play, but he's going to miss the game again tonight. I know John Tortorella wants to get him back in, but just has been unable to. Nobody's faltered, and that's the trick with when you take a guy out. How does he get back into the lineup? Somebody invariably has got to falter. He hasn't seen that yet. So Flyers penalty kill 12th in the NHL at 82.4%. Vegas 9th at 88.9%. This is the interesting number I thought, Brian. Vegas allows the 7th least amount of shots in the league at 28 even per game, but the Flyers allow the 4th least amount of shots per game at 27.6. And when I looked at that number, I really thought about it. I don't weigh a lot on shots, but the number is telling, and this is why. They're defending far less than they had last year. And their zone exits have been far more consistent. And I think a big factor is the way they defend the neutral zone. Just seems like they're standing teams up and not allowing them to get into the zone to even have to break out.
Yeah, it's exactly. And John Tortorella touched on that a little bit this morning when we talked to him. Sometimes the best way to defend is to make sure that your team has the puck. If you're on offense, you don't have to defend, and that's part of what they want to do to try to ease the load, if you will, on the younger defense guys. They want to attack. They want to be, pressing the issue. They want to jump in on the offense. They don't want to sit back in a defensive shell because that won't go well for this team right now, especially against this opponent. They want to keep, they want to be on the attack. They want to be, on their toes. And then I think you're exactly right. It's their breakouts that do that, because when the breakouts are clean and you're getting through the neutral zone, then now you're on offense, and you're if you don't have sustained zone time, you've got consistent offensive zone time. If you can't get to the neutral zone, then you're always getting back on your heels. You're always trying to defend. You spend too much time defending, and eventually that it's going to burn you. So that's I think that's a key right now for this team, is to again continue to press the issue, be as assertive as possible, and then take advantage of the opportunities they're able to get, because they don't have that elite sniper. They don't have that Jack Eichel. They don't have a guy that's going to come out here and put up 60 goals. So they've got to do it kind of in a lunch pail manner.
Yeah, and the thing is too is, if you're a team that it gets hemmed in a lot, the shifts get long, and that's when you can take penalties and you get scored on. So if you're in control of the puck,
that almost happened to them in Dallas too.
Yeah,
they had a time when they had a bunch of guys hemmed in for a minute and a half, and it almost burned them. So that's the kind of thing that they want to try to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, and when you control the puck, you can do that a lot more effectively. All right, here's the line combinations for tonight. Let's go. All right, it's Couturier, Tippett, and Atkinson on the top line. Scott Lawton centers Travis Konechny and Tyson Forster. It is Noah Cates between Joel Farabee and the aforementioned Bobby Brink. And then it's Ryan Poehling, Garnet Hathaway, and Nick Deslauriers as your fourth line. PhD still in full effect. I don't think that'll change. York and Sanheim as a top pair. Zamula and Sean Walker. Then Emil Andre and Nick Seeler are your defensive pairings. And Carter Hart will get back in the net tonight. Sam Emerson got his first start on Saturday against the Dallas Stars. Hart, who's off to a good start, gets back in there tonight and gets a handful of a team to take on in Vegas tonight. I think the big key, Bryce, get ready to turn it over to Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk. The big key, I think, against Vegas is you got to play a really diligent and disciplined game, because, they come at you in a way that every line feels the same. There's not one Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl type line, but they're all good lines, and they're going to keep chucking them over the boards at you. So, just got to, every shift's got to be detailed.
And they're fast. They've got incredible speed, and the key to this is going to be to just a solid checking game. It's a good solid road game. Sticks in the lanes, just making their life difficult. You can't be caught with a bad gap or anything like that. You've got to do your best to disrupt what they're doing, because, like you said, they're going to just keep rolling it. You're not going to shut a team like this down, especially the way they're going right now. So, you have to make their life as difficult as possible. And it's the other thing Tortorella said this morning is they approach it as a 5-man unit. So it's not just the defenders, it's on the offense to contribute to before they send it the other way.
Well, no question about it. All right, stay tuned. We've got Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk coming to you from T-Mobile Arena. They've got the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action. Flyers After Dark, our first of the year, a late night in Vegas. Stay tuned for Philadelphia Flyers, Vegas Golden Knights hockey. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.